The rain hit the windows of Terminal 7 like 1,000 whispered secrets. Inside, the passengers of Flight 273 to Washington, D.C. queued quietly at Gate 42, clutching their boarding passes, yawning, scrolling through phones, or staring blankly at the gray runway beyond. Among them was a young woman who could easily have gone unnoticed. Seat 14A. Her name on the ticket read Ilara Quinn, but that wasn't the name most people in her old world would remember. To them, to the few who had ever flown beside her, she was Spectre 1. But today, in jeans, a gray hoodie, and a backpack with a frayed Air Force Academy patch, she looked like any other traveler trying to disappear. Her hair was tied in a no-nonsense ponytail, her eyes sharp yet distant. She avoided attention even as the flight attendant smiled and scanned her pass. "Welcome aboard." "Miss Quinn, thank you," she said softly, her voice calm, practiced, the kind of tone that belonged to someone who'd learned to control every emotion long before she turned 25. The quiet takeoff flight. 3 was a standard civilian route, a 737-800 bound for Washington. Routine, forgettable. But that morning, the atmosphere over the eastern seaboard wasn't ordinary. Far above, beyond civilian radar, a pair of F-22 Raptors cruised through thin, cold air, part of a quiet patrol following a potential intelligence alert. The pilots, Captain Ray Falcon Danner and Lieutenant Mark Rogue Henson, had received coded instructions only minutes ago. A possible encrypted signal had been detected, piggybacking on civilian airband frequencies. It matched an old Air Force tactical encryption code, one that hadn't been used in years, and that code was tied to a call sign, Spectre 1. "Falcon to command," Danner said, frowning behind his oxygen mask. "You're sure this is real? Spectre 1's code?" "Affirmative," the controller replied through static. "The signal originated near Flight 273. Maintain visual surveillance. Do not engage unless authorized." "Copy." The 2 Raptors adjusted course and invisible to the passengers below, their engines whispering like ghosts in the upper atmosphere. Down below, Ilara Quinn fastened her seatbelt and gazed out at the rain-soaked tarmac. She had no idea she was already being tracked, or maybe deep down she did. Haunted altitude at 18,000 feet, the seatbelt sign turned off. A few passengers stood to stretch. The cabin hummed with low conversation. Ilara remained silent, her eyes fixed on the clouds outside. Every time lightning flashed, a sliver of reflection showed her expression, calm, unreadable, yet holding something far heavier than fear. She had once flown higher than this in aircraft far faster, far deadlier, but that was years ago, before the mission in Qatar, before the blackout over the Mediterranean, before her disappearance from every Air Force database. The world thought Captain Ilara Spectre Quinn had died on that mission, and she'd let them believe it. Flashback, Operation Silent Rain 3 years earlier. Ilara had been one of the youngest F-35 pilots to fly Black Zone Recon under the 97th Tactical Wing. She was precise, quiet, and impossible to rattle. A legend in the simulator, invisible on radar and unmatched in the sky. Her call sign Spectre came not from aggression, but from how she disappeared, both visually and emotionally. During Operation Silent Rain, a mission deep in restricted airspace, her unit intercepted a rogue drone swarm hijacked by a hostile satellite uplink. The swarm turned on the squadron. Ilara stayed behind to jam the uplink manually, knowing it meant certain exposure. Her voice was the last her team heard before the radio went dead. Spectre 1 to command. "Don't send anyone else. I'm already off radar. You won't find me." The next day, the Pentagon confirmed, lost with aircraft. No remains recovered. Only a few senior officers knew the truth. That she'd survived the ejection, recovered by a classified ground unit, and reassigned to an intelligence project so covert it was buried under black budget layers. Then, she vanished again. Present, turbulence and recognition. A sudden jolt shook the cabin. A voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've hit some unexpected turbulence. Please remain seated and fasten your seatbelts." The seatbelt lights blinked on. Passengers groaned, but Ilara didn't flinch. Her hand moved instinctively toward the armrest where, long ago, a cockpit control stick would have been. Muscle memory. Her eyes scanned the ceiling lights, counting rhythm, timing altitude shifts, habits no ordinary civilian would know. Across the aisle, a retired Air Force mechanic named Harold Trent noticed her subtle actions. The way she braced her feet. The steady breathing. He smiled faintly. "You Air Force?" he asked casually. Alara hesitated. "Once," she said. He nodded knowingly. "You've got the look. Used to work F-22 maintenance myself. Never saw anyone as calm as a pilot during turbulence." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Old habits die hard. Above them, at 40,000 feet, Falcon and Rogue maintained parallel formation, scanning the plane visually. Nothing seemed unusual until a coded ping appeared on Falcon's HUD. A short encrypted burst from exactly 3 pulses. Spectre 1 protocol. Falcon froze. "Command, the signal just re-triggered. Source is inside Flight 273. Confirm response pattern." "Command. Confirmed." That's her code. "But that's impossible." Falcon's hands tightened on the control stick. Impossible or not, she's alive. The signal, Alara's smartwatch and battered old, not connected to any modern network, vibrated faintly. She looked down. For the first time since boarding, emotion flickered in her eyes. A flash of disbelief, maybe fear. On the watch face, a single word glowed in blue text. "Spectre?" Her throat tightened. She hadn't seen that encryption since the program was decommissioned. The passenger beside her leaned over. "Cool watch." She turned the display off quickly. "It's an old prototype." But her heart was pounding now. Someone was using her old comm frequency. Someone in the sky. She reached into her backpack and retrieved a small metal case, disguised as a portable charger. Inside was a slim transponder etched with an emblem, a winged spectre skull. The hardware was ancient by military standards, but still functional. She waited until the cabin lights dimmed and passengers drifted into mid-flight silence. Then under the tray table she activated it, static. Then, a voice, low, distorted. "Spectre 1. If you're hearing this, we need confirmation." Her eyes widened. She knew that voice. "Falcon?" she whispered. Silence for a beat, then the reply. "Holy hell. Spectre, is that you?" Reconnection at 35,000 feet. Inside the F-22 cockpit, Captain Danner's pulse surged. His systems confirmed the signal originated from inside the passenger jet below. Rogue's voice cracked in disbelief. "She's alive." "After all this time?" "Falcon, confirmed. Signal is genuine. She's on that plane. Command control." "Negative, Falcon. Do not engage. This is a civilian aircraft. You are to maintain shadow formation only." But Falcon's instincts screamed otherwise. If Spectre was transmitting, something was wrong. She wouldn't break silence unless there was danger. Ilara's quiet voice came through again, slightly shaky now. "Falcon, listen carefully. You're not supposed to be here. You'll blow my cover. Your cover. You've been off the grid for 3 years. "I didn't disappear," she said. "I was reassigned, and the people I'm tracking are on this plane." Rogue blinked. "She's saying what now?" Falcon steadied his voice. "Spectre, who's your target?" No answer. Only static. Then through the civilian comm network, Falcon heard a strange broadcast, an irregular tone sweeping through frequencies, the kind used for coded detonation signals. His gut twisted. "Spectre, are you saying there's a threat on that aircraft?" She exhaled. "Yes, and you have about 15 minutes before the entire sky knows it." The hidden threat back inside the cabin. Ilara's demeanor shifted. The quiet passenger in seat 14A was gone. In her place was the operative, calm, calculating, eyes scanning the crowd. 3 rows ahead, 2 men sat stiffly, avoiding eye contact. One had a heavy laptop bag clamped between his feet. The other occasionally adjusted his earpiece. To everyone else, they looked like businessmen. But Ilara recognized the pattern, the silent communication, the finger taps, the timed glances. She'd seen it before in covert smuggling ops, disguised signal syncs. Her hand brushed the seatbelt buckle, measuring weight distribution, aisle clearance. Old instincts awoke fully now. She reached for the intercom button to call the attendant, but froze when one of the men stood up, pretending to stretch, and began walking toward the cockpit. Her watch pulsed again. "Falcon. We're reading an irregular EM signature from the cabin. Confirm status," she whispered. 2 hostiles. Possible explosive link. "Falcon, copy. You want extraction?" Ilara's lips tightened. "Negative. Too many civilians. I'll handle it from here." The decision, every pilot learns one truth. Altitude magnifies isolation. Up here, decisions echo louder. Alara unbuckled quietly and stood, blending into the dim cabin light. The flight attendants didn't notice her slip forward until she was already near the galley. "Ma'am, seatbelt sign is on," one said. Alara gave a disarming smile. "I know, but trust me. You'll want to stay calm." Something in her tone made the attendant step back. Authority. Control. Alara leaned closer. "Lock the aft door quietly. Tell the captain not to open the cockpit unless I say." The attendant blinked. "Who are you?" Ilara's eyes softened for the briefest second. "Someone who's been here before." Then she moved. Swift, silent. Above the clouds outside, the F-22s tightened formation, flying parallel to the unaware commercial plane. Inside, a battle of nerves began that would... The air inside Flight 273 grew thick, tense, and charged, though the passengers still had no idea what was unfolding 35,000 feet above the clouds. Alara Quinn stood near the galley, eyes locked on the man walking toward the cockpit. Every movement was calculated, rehearsed, the way someone behaves when they've been trained to control chaos. Her instincts screamed, this was no ordinary passenger. The man paused halfway up the aisle, glancing back at his partner, the one guarding the laptop bag. Their eyes met for a second, too coordinated, too clean. Alara knew that kind of discipline. She'd seen it in special forces, and in enemies who'd learned from them. The warning up in the cockpit. Captain Danner's F-22 tracked the commercial jet silently from 6 miles out. "Command Falcon," he called. "Spectre confirms hostile presence on board. She's attempting internal control." Control replied, "Understood. You are not to engage under any circumstance. Maintain shadow formation." Rogue's voice broke through, sharp with disbelief. "We're just gonna sit here? She's on her own in a pressurized tin can with 2 armed hostiles?" Falcon didn't answer. His jaw clenched under the oxygen mask. He knew Spectre. He'd flown with her once, years ago, before the mission that took her off the map. If anyone could neutralize a crisis in midair without breaking a sweat, it was her. But still, she was outnumbered, and this was a commercial flight. One wrong move and everyone died. Inside the cabin, the taller man, the one near the cockpit, pressed his hand against the lavatory door as if checking something. Then he turned slightly, scanning the passengers. His eyes landed briefly on Alara. He froze. It was subtle. The kind of freeze that lasts a fraction too long. Recognition. He knew her. Alara realized it at the same instant. He's one of ours. Or he was. Before she could react, he reached under his jacket. Alara's voice dropped low. "Everyone stay calm." Passengers looked up, confused. The flight attendant near the galley gasped when she saw the glint of metal. A compact detonator grip, disguised as a phone. Alara moved first. In one fluid motion, she slammed her elbow into the wall, triggering the emergency alert switch behind the galley, the one that silently signaled the cockpit. Then she lunged. Her shoulder hit the man square in the chest. The device clattered across the aisle. Gasps erupted. The second man, the one with the laptop, then stood abruptly, pulling something from the bag. A scream tore through the cabin. "Above the clouds, Falcon. We've got movement inside the cabin." Rogue shouted, staring at his radar feed. "Thermal spike near the front section." "Something's happening." Falcon gritted his teeth. "Spectre's engaging. We can't do a damn thing from up here." Command's voice broke through again. "Falcon, maintain visual only. Civilian engagement protocol still stands." Falcon slammed his fist lightly against the console. "You're going to get her killed." Inside Flight 273, the fight was silent chaos. Alara ducked as a seatback shattered under a stray blow. The second man pulled a collapsible blade, thin and curved. She twisted his wrist, using his own momentum to drive it into the wall panel. The first attacker recovered the detonator and hit the power key. The lights flickered. A high-pitched pulse whined through the cabin speakers. Not loud enough for passengers to identify, but unmistakable to her. An uplink tone. They were trying to activate something remotely. Alara slammed the first man into the bulkhead, then grabbed the detonator. Her thumb disabled the power circuit with a practiced flick. She shoved it into her pocket, chest heaving. "Everyone stay down," she ordered. The passengers obeyed. No one argued with that tone. Crisp, commanding, absolute. Command recognition down in NORAD's control center. A dozen analysts scrambled. The civilian aircraft's transponder had just sent out an unusual coded burst, identical to Spectre 1's encryption signature. General McCready looked up from his console. "Get me Falcon's feed now." A technician turned the screen. The F-22s appeared in close formation, tailing the 737. The general's eyes narrowed as he saw a small blip moving erratically inside the cabin heat map. "Spectre, Quinn," he murmured. "You were supposed to stay dead." The passenger hero of the cabin descended into whispers. The air smelled faintly of ozone from the broken panel. Ilara stood in the aisle, chest rising steadily, scanning for any other threat. A boy in seat 16B whispered to his mother, "Mom, is she a soldier?" His mother held him close. I think she's saving us." Ilara turned briefly, offering a faint smile. "Everything's under control," she said, though her pulse still hammered. The pilots up front came over the intercom, voice shaking. "We've been informed of a possible security situation. Please remain seated. We are in contact with ground authorities." She moved back toward the cockpit, lowering her voice into her wrist mic. "Falcon, one device disabled, second possible in luggage compartment. I need confirmation on uplink source." "Falcon, we're reading faint emissions from cargo bay. Could be a relay." Ilara nodded. "Then that's where I'm going." Rogue's voice cut in. "Spectre, that's suicide. If they've got a secondary, then I don't make it," she interrupted flatly. "But they don't take this plane." Memories at altitude as she descended toward the lower deck. Memories pressed in. The mission that went wrong. The decision to vanish. The moment she'd chosen duty over recognition. Spectre 1 was never about medals or headlines. It was about staying unseen so others could live. She crawled through the narrow maintenance corridor, flashlight in hand. The hum of engines vibrated through the metal skin around her. Then a faint beep. She froze. A black metal case wedged behind a service crate. No markings. Just a small light pulsing blue. She recognized the design instantly. A field mod EMP charge designed to wipe electronics within a radius of 1 mile. Enough to blind radar comms and flight systems. "Falcon," she whispered. "Confirmed secondary device. EMP core military grade. 15-minute timer. Can you disarm?" A long pause. "Maybe." The sky tightens above. The two F-22s broke formation, circling the commercial jet like silent guardians. Falcon radioed command. EMP onboard confirmed. Spectre's attempting disarm. If that pulse detonates, we lose her, the plane, and radar for the entire sector. Command. Understood. Prepare to intercept pattern if required. Rogue muttered. If required? That means shoot down our own plane. Falcon didn't answer. His eyes flicked to the small emblem painted on his control panel. A faded Spectre skull. He'd kept it since she vanished. Countdown. Ilara knelt before the device, sweating. The countdown glowed. 08:59. She pried open the access panel with a cabin key. Inside, a tangle of circuits and 2 microcores pulsed in alternating rhythm. Whoever built it knew what they were doing. Her hands trembled only slightly. Years of training took over. She isolated the frequency wire. Silver, insulated. Cut the wrong one and the EMP detonates instantly. She closed her eyes. Trust your training, her knife flicked. A spark hissed and then silence. The beeping stopped. She exhaled shakily. Device disarmed, Falcon's voice filled her ear. Copy, Spectre. You did it, but she wasn't smiling. Falcon, that was just one. You said the uplink was dual frequency. Where's the other signal? He frowned. Wait. We're picking up an external ping, above you. Her eyes widened. The second device isn't inside the plane. The hidden wing through the cabin window. A reflection caught her eye. A small dark speck clamped under the left wing. Her pulse spiked. A magnetic pod. Drone delivered, stealth attached. She'd seen that tech used in black market anti-radar experiments. Falcon, she snapped. There's a secondary charge on the port wing. You'll have to take it off. Spectre, that's not possible without decompression. Then get close. Use your right wing's EM dampeners to short it. That's insane, Rogue barked. So was coming back from the dead, she said coolly. Wing to wing, the F-22s adjusted formation, descending dangerously close to the civilian aircraft. Less than 50 feet of air between wingtips. Falcon's HUD locked onto the small pod under the 737's wing. Target acquired. Engaging dampeners. A pulse of blue energy shimmered across the night sky. Passengers pressed their faces to the windows, gasping at the strange light outside. Inside, Alara braced as the cabin vibrated violently. Then silence. The external signal vanished from radar. Spectre. Falcon breathed. It's gone. Device neutralized. She slumped against the wall, relief washing over her. Copy that. Aftermath, 2 hours later. Flight 273 landed at Andrews Air Force Base instead of Washington International. Military personnel swarmed the runway before the wheels even stopped. The passengers were escorted calmly off the plane, still confused but unharmed. Alara Quinn remained seated by the window, watching the F-22s land beside them, silent sentinels against the morning sun. Falcon approached her later, still in flight gear. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, he said quietly, "We thought you were gone." "I was," she replied, eyes distant. "But ghosts have a way of coming back when skies need them." He smiled faintly. "Still Spectre 1, huh?" She looked toward the horizon. "For today."